In today's video, I'm going to be ranking the strongest dragons that are left in House of the Dragon. Starting us off, we have Stormcloud. A later episode in Season 2 showed us a new dragon, Stormcloud, who's a young dragon who was hatched in the cradle of Rhaenyra's son, Aegon III. Both Stormcloud and Aegon are too young to help with the fighting and the dance. Tessarion. We finally saw Tessarion in the closing seconds of the Season 2 finale, as the dragon flew over the Hightower army leaving Old Town. For most of the series, fans have wondered if Tessarion and her rider Daeron Targaryen were cut from the show, but finally we got to see that. Tessarion is another important chess piece in Team Green's dragon arsenal. She's the youngest dragon to fight on Team Green's side, though. Next, Vermax. Vermax was hatched soon after Jace was born in an attempt to prove his Targaryen bloodline. We got a first look at Vermax in Season 1 when Jace entered the dragon pit, and Vermax was an adolescent in that scene, but he has grown to be about the size of a large house in Season 2. Dragon fighting in the war. Moondancer is the youngest dragon fighting in the dance, and in the book she's described as being unable to hold her rider Bela just a few years before the war. Both Moondancer and Seasmoke are described as being very small dragons in the book, but seem to be somewhere between the size of Syrax and Vermax in the show. Grey Ghost, the smallest wild dragon. Not much is known about Grey Ghost. It's mentioned in the books that he's the smallest of the three wild dragons on Dragonstone at the start of the Dance of Dragons. He took its name from its distinctive gray color, and one of the two wild dragons from the books that haven't been mentioned in the TV series just yet. Next, we have Sunfire. Is Sunfire still alive? Is the question we need to ask. Because last we saw, Sunfire was curled around Aegon's lifeless body after being attacked by Melees and burned by Vhagar. We even heard Kristen Cole say the dragon was long in the dying, implying that he might be already dead. Book readers have reason to suspect that Cole may have spoken too soon because HBO has made changes from the source material in the past, but Sunfire dying at Rook's Rest would be a significant departure on the level of leading out Lady Stoneheart like they did in Game of Thrones. We have Seasmoke, Rhaenyra's old husband's dragon. Seasmoke belonged to Rhaenyra's first husband, Laenor Velaryon, for the first 20 years of his life, before Laenor faked his death and fled Driftmark. In the book, Seasmoke is described as being much smaller than Syrax, but in the series, the dragons appear to be about the same size, with Seasmoke maybe being just a bit larger. We mostly saw Seasmoke take Adam of Hall as his rider recently after refusing Sir Stefan Darkland. Next, we have Syrax. Rhaenyra's first mounted him when she was 7. The events of House of the Dragon take place about 25 years later, which should put Syrax in the early to mid-30s age range. Syrax is larger than most of the following dragons on this list, but is actually considered small for her age, likely owing to spending large parts of her life in the Dragon Pit and King's Landing. Next, we have Dreamfyre, the Queen's dragon, with the rider being Helaena Targaryen. Dreamfyre is older than dragons like Vermithor and Silverwing, but she's still smaller than both. She's also ridden by Helaena. Helaena is one of my favorite characters with her weird little prophecies, but she seems much closer to a well-deserved mental breakdown than she does to mounting her dragon and leading it into battle. So it remains to be seen how one of the larger dragons controlled by either faction could be a factor in the ongoing war. Aemon tries to push her to fly Dreamfyre into battle in the Season 2 finale, but she refused. If Dreamfyre had another rider, she'd probably be higher on my list. Next, we have Sheepstealer. Sheepstealer literally made a name for himself stealing the small folks' livestock. In the books, he was born sometime early on during the life of King Jaehaerys' life, which would put him around 100 years old in House of the Dragon. He's smaller than the other dragons around that age range, though, but is still a large enough dragon to be a serious weapon if Team Black could find a way to domesticate him. In the finale of Season 2, we finally got our first glimpse of Sheepstealer. Next, we have Silverwing, the dragon that saw the wall. Queen Alysanne Targaryen's former dragon is another large dragon that we saw choose a new rider in Season 2. Silverwing was born around 90 years before the dance and is described in the books as being one of the more gentler dragons. She's most well known as the dragon that Queen Alysanne flew to the wall, an event that's been referenced a few times in both House of the Dragon and Game of Thrones. After Alysanne's death, Silverwing went with Vermithor to Dragonstone and stayed there until she chose Ulf as her new rider. Interestingly enough, Silverwing and Vermithor both chose their former riders' grandchildren for new riders. That's if we can believe that Ulf is the bastard son of Prince Balon, as he stated early on in Season 2. Next, we have the Cannibal, a dragon who eats dragons. Believed to be over 100 years old and is a wild dragon on Dragonstone. The Cannibal is one of the 3 wild dragons that have made a home out of the caves on Dragonstone. There's not a lot known about the Cannibal. We know he's the largest of the 3 wild dragons, but not larger than Vermithor. We also know one of the other wild dragons, Sheepstealer, is around 100 years old, which means the Cannibal could actually be much older than that. He's earned the name the Cannibal by attacking smaller dragons. He hasn't been mentioned in the show yet, but hopefully we get to see a few unlucky folks attempt to tame him in Season 3. Next, we have Caraxes. Damon's dragon is one of the more unique looking dragons in the show. He features red scales and a long, slender neck. The dragon's similar in size to Melee's, who we recently saw killed at the hands of Vhagar. Damon's dragon has a little more fighting experience than Melee's did, though, having recently fought with Damon in the Stepstones during Season 1. Caraxes was also used in battle by his first rider, Aemon Targaryen, who was Damon's uncle. And then next we have Vermithor. The second largest living dragon is Vermithor at almost 100 years old. He was ridden by King Jaehaerys during his entire 55-year reign, but has been riderless since the king died in 103 AC. He spent the 30 years since the king's death residing in a lair on Dragonstone before Rhaenyra brought the dragon seeds before Vermithor. He ended up choosing Hugh Hammer as his rider, and Hammer's an interesting choice as we learned he's King Jaehaerys' grandson in Season 2. And finally, we all know the most powerful dragon, Vhagar, the largest and most battle-tested dragon in Westeros at this point. The real question is, though, can any of these dragons take on Vhagar? Vhagar was first hatched on Dragonstone 50 years before the Targaryens took over all of Westeros. Vhagar was claimed by Visenya Targaryen, one of Aegon the Conqueror's sister wives. With Visenya as her rider, Vhagar helped Aegon take over Westeros before becoming a crucial part in fighting Dorne in the decade that followed. After Visenya, Vhagar's passed to Balon Targaryen, who was Viserys and Daemon's father, and then Laena Velaryon, before finally ending up with Aemon. So what do you think? Do you think any of those dragons can take on the large and mighty Vhagar? We will have to see in Season 3, but that is my list of the most powerful dragons that are still left in House of the Dragon. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe.